Curious. Obviously, you're Canada's first Tamil MP, and congratulations on
Thank you.
your win. But you talked about the need to break negative stigmas surrounding members of your community. Just wondering what you're talking about and why you want to work on that. That essentially members of the Tamil community have been can sometimes be brushed over with the same brush.
I think that any growing community in any growing diaspora community really has gone through this evolution in the development of that community, and it's just to ensure that the members of the community are seen in all lights. Because we're aspiring in all different areas in Canadian society, and is to ensure that those are recognized as well, and not just to broad brush, not cover all members of the Tamil community, because you're asking specifically because I'm Tamil, to not just coat everybody from the Tamil community with the same broad brush, but to recognize that we are contributors of all facets of the Canadian culture and economy through our contributions.
What is the negative stigma that exists right now?
There's been, from I'd say 10 years ago, to our youth being involved in a lot of violence, to Tamils seen as people who are protesters on the street when you're making orderly demonstrations that are peaceful, orderly demonstrations. We're still seen as negative protesters. Immigrants, get out of our country. These are things that people say, whereas all of us Canadians are immigrants, other than the people who are from this land originally.
The Reconciliation Commission, and I'm not sure if you were saying that it's really overlooking some of these allegations, or it's not doing the job you'd like it to do. How are they handling allegations of war crimes, and what's the danger of not addressing these kinds of allegations?
I mean, time and again, the international community had told Sri Lanka that they don't have the capacity and they don't have the mechanism to come out and investigate claims like this. That's the reason the UN panel of experts said, and that's the reason the UK says, that's the reason the United States of America says, please go ahead and come with an international investigation to investigate those claims. And a few years back, I don't know whether you all know that we, as Canada, we contributed Professor Bruce Matthews and money to go and advise them, and along with few other international experts, to conduct these kind of claims. But after 2 years of working with the Sri Lankan government, they left with frustration. So there's a clear example. Professor Bruce Matthews, who based in Nova Scotia, he came and told that they have no capacity, that they don't have the capacity, there's no willingness to work on these claims.
Do you have the background of the committee? The commission. So basically, the Sri Lankan government established a commission called the Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission that was to look at policy. It was cornerstone of its policy to address the past. So from the ceasefire agreement in 2002 to the end of the conflict in May 2009. So the mandate of this commission was to look at what happened during that period of time. But the UN's report that was issued by the independent, the three-party panel, was that the LLRC, the Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission, was actually that it failed to satisfy, I'm reading directly from the UN report, said that it fails to satisfy key international standards of independence and impartiality, as it is comprised by its composition and deep-seated conflicts of interests of some of its members. And then the summary is that it is deeply flawed, it does not meet international standards for an effective accountability mechanism, and therefore does not and cannot satisfy the joint commitment of the President of Sri Lanka and the Secretary General to an accountability process. So the report is available online, and I read directly from that for you.
What do you think the implications or the dangers are if this isn't investigated by the UN, in an independent inquiry by the UN? What's the downside? What's the danger?
If it is?
If it's not.
Oh, if it's not. Okay.
truth will never come out.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, in order to achieve the state of reconciliation and then rebuilding, the truth needs to be identified first. And without truth, there is no reconciliation. So, in order to have real truth, you need to have an accountable, an independent eyes, outside eyes on the situation. In any, like, as a mediator, like when I'm dealing with parties, I pull them aside from their positions and talk about the actual interests, the issues that are at hand. And to look at the issues without people taking positions, you really need to have an unbiased look at it. And the United Nations is that unbiased body that we have available internationally to be able to do that. So that's why I am, and that's why I think we're all here to articulate that it should be a UN-led process to have an independent inquiry.
So add to that point, the LLRC they asked as a credible international organization, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, ICG to come and testify in front of them. They refused to go. They said, we cannot come in front of you because you're not credible enough for us to come and testify.
Thank you very much.